In today's video, ABC News confronts Governor Wes Moore for lying about receiving a Bronze Star. Also, Governor J.B. Pritzker attacks Kristi Noem, and CNN continues to aggressively defend the identity of the Minnesota shooter. In all of these videos, we'll show you what both sides are saying and give you the bottom line.
I want to go back to your service. You served in Afghanistan. You know the president has brought up you claiming you had a Bronze Star in 2006 when you were applying for a job. Why did you do that?
Well, I think I'm deeply proud of my service to this country. And I know my soldiers that I serve with are deeply proud, and the veteran community is as well. And I think it's pretty common knowledge or common belief that when your commanding officers and your superior officers tell you, listen, we put you in and we've gone through everything, so as you're going through your application, include it.
Okay. A commanding officer would not tell their subordinate to lie on an application to the White House by saying that you received not an Army Commendation Medal, but a Bronze Star, which is up there, okay? Not the highest, but it's up there. They wouldn't tell you to lie on the application knowing the award hasn't even been approved. Everyone in the military knows you never say something or say you earned something unless it's on your what? Your DD-214. I've talked about this in the past. But I guess he felt the need that he had to sit down with ABC this morning to do this interview, I guess, to clear the air, to provide clarification, to defend himself. But I think he's only making it worse, especially for people who did serve, especially for people who did sacrifice their lives. This is just humiliating, in my opinion. Just take responsibility.
I included it, and I didn't think about it.
But in 2008 on PBS, they said they introduced you, Gwen Ifill, saying you had earned a Bronze Star medal. That's 2008. 2010, you were on the Colbert Show. When he said you had a Bronze Star, you did not correct him. You had to know you did not have one then.
Well, it was, I did not go back and, go back and tell the Pentagon, hey, I was told to put this on my application, and didn't. And honestly, at that point,
I'm not talking about the Pentagon. I'm talking about you knew in those interviews you did not have one.
Yeah, see, he's dancing around. He's not providing a straight answer. I'm telling you, this would be behind him if he would just say, hey, you know what? I was young and dumb. I made a mistake. That's still not an excuse, but I own up to it. The last thing I ever want to do is disrespect my military service, including the people that came before me and paved the way. Now, it's just not in his nature from a political standpoint. These politicians, they are what is it, allergic to telling the truth. They just can't do it. It's like they have someone in their ear, some person from an Ivy League school telling them, yeah, don't admit to telling the truth here. And the problem with that advice is disconnected from reality. We all know the truth will set you free. It's so interesting.
No, because even at the time of those interviews, it wasn't something that I even thought about. When I came home, it wasn't something I even thought about.
Really?
I didn't think about the fact that, hey, I wonder if my paperwork processed out. We're now thankful that the military, after they found out that the paperwork was lost and didn't process, that they came back and awarded me the Bronze Star. So yes, I do have. So I do have a Bronze Star that I earned in Afghanistan and a combat action badge that I earned in Afghanistan.
Good for you. Good for you. You see how he's getting defensive? Yeah, I got one in Afghanistan. Bro, just because you served in Afghanistan and you got a combat action badge doesn't make you any better than anybody else walking down the street. And he doubles down on this attitude, and he says something I find to be disrespectful towards the end. But let's just understand something. When he says, well, it's not something I was looking at when I got out. Every veteran looks at their DD-214 when they get out. Why? Because they want it to be correct, because they know if it's not correct, you can't go out there saying you served here, you did this, you went there. And again, he's being disingenuous at best. It's really disrespectful in my opinion, but watch what he says next.
So I'm proud of that, but that's not why I served.
But do you regret not correcting when you were introduced that way?
I mean, I don't regret not going back and consistently looking over my service records.
Smiling about.
I don't. I'm thankful for the service I did. I'm grateful for the fact that I had the opportunity to lead soldiers in combat, what a small fraction of this people of this country will ever understand.
Okay, so just a couple of things. Number one, just because you served in the military, you went overseas, got a combat action badge, and led troops into war, doesn't mean people owe you that understanding. This entitlement to think that as a veteran, you watch right now owe me understanding. You don't owe me anything. I don't need you to understand what I had to go through. That's between me and God. Okay. So I don't like when people do that to civilians because we're asking them to do something they can't practically do. Okay. That's number one. Number two, I think he's using this defense to tell people they don't understand what he went through in order to defend his lies and lack of integrity. That is disgusting. This brings me to point number three. There are plenty of soldiers who were promised a Bronze Star, but they were never able to get one because they're not the governor of a state. You think he was able to finally get it just by luck? This guy is a governor. I'm sure he has connections, and they were able to fix it after a certain period of time because they knew politically this would be bad news if he decides to run for president one day. So that's how I see everything. And that's the bottom line to this entire story. I just think it's disrespectful. Okay, so let's go to our next story. This is follow-on reaction to the Minnesota shooter who is trans, who clearly was confused, filled with evil, did the devil's work, as I would say. And CNN is out here defending the fact that this shooter is trans by calling out the White House. Now, we're going to start on this clip first because it doesn't go well for CNN. Take a look.
96% of attackers when you're looking at the U.S. Secret Service National Threat Assessment Center, looking at 172 mass attacks in the U.S. between 2016 and 2020, 96% were non-trans men. So I know you're focusing on this shooter being trans. The shooter was trans, and that is certainly of note. But are you missing the bigger picture here when you zero in on that instead of more broadly these school shooters as an epidemic, and you perhaps miss the through line that connects them all?
Well, no, because your facts obfuscate two things. You are using data based upon the predominant gun violence, which is gang-on-gang violence with zero ideological content. If you remove all of that, the gang violence on the streets of Chicago, LA, Detroit, then you come down to a much smaller data set. So it's like those who say, gun violence in America causes so many deaths, and then fail to note that the majority of the stats they are using refer to also suicides by gun, which of course is not what we are talking about here today. So let's concentrate on mass shootings at schools, specifically Christian or Catholic schools. Then the data set is wholly different. So don't conflate different data sets just to make a political point.
Yeah, I really love the way that he had to remind her what this was truly about, which brings me to what Ground News is showing us here. And we love to use Ground News because we get to see the full picture of what the media is doing. And in this particular case, in regards to this Minnesota shooter, look at this title: CNN, New York Times, USA Today, all published stories about the shooter without mentioning his trans identity. Now, why is that? Because I thought all these networks were all about racial issues and identity. Why are they failing to include that in there? We're not fixated on it. It's just a key detail that should be in there. That's like saying whether or not the person is a man or a woman. You'd want to know that piece of information. But anyways, the only reason why I was able to know this is because we use a tool like Ground News. And so again, if you guys want to follow me along as I go through this, just go to ground.news/Devore. And the cool thing about Ground News, it'll show you what they call blind spot. Blind spot is when only one side of the political spectrum is talking about a story. Look at this. 91% of the sources that lean right are talking about the fact of this identity not being mentioned. And it looks like only 9% lean left. That's interesting, right? They don't want you to know. And I wonder why that is.
There was an ideological content to this attack. That's what terrorism is. It's not because somebody didn't get the drug deal they wanted. It is an ideological message, whether it was anti-Israel, as in this case, whether it targeted President Trump in its rhetoric, as we saw on one of the magazines written by the perpetrator on that YouTube video, or whether we saw the fact that it was anti-Christian and targeting children. That has nothing to do with gang violence. Let's not mix the two things up.
Yeah, he's so spot on about it. And that's usually the way that it works with people who are fresh out of these universities and are really Ivy educated, they seem to make these assumptions based on theory and not actually based on reality. Okay. Now, if you guys see here on the screen, New York Post reported this. Representative Omar slams Trump official for pointing out Minnesota church shooter's trans identity. Quote, this is not the moment to point fingers. Now, I'm about to show you that clip. But the point is, nobody is pointing fingers. What we're doing is telling the full truth. That's something Democrats want to leave out, including the media. And that's why we use ground news. And that's why I encourage you to use this tool as well. So if you want to use this tool for yourself, all you have to do is go to ground.news/Devori, or you could download the mobile app. Just use promo code Devori, and it's going to give you access to everything that I showed you in this video, including 40% off the Vantage plan.
These people are all over the place because they want to deflect from the reality, which is that there was someone who came in to that school through the window and assassinated two beautiful angels as they prayed and put 14 other children in the hospital who are still fighting for their lives. And it is important for us to make sure that we are offering a slew of solutions. One is to make sure that we are getting rid of assault weapons in our community. Two, that we are addressing mental health issues if there are some. And yes, as a community, it is important for us to say something when we see something, when somebody is exhibiting signs that there could be a problem ahead, that we talk to them, that we get them the assistance they need, and that yes, we do alert law enforcement. But this is not the moment to point fingers at people. It is time for us to come together and figure out what the actual solutions are so that there are no more dead angels in our communities.
We know she doesn't really want to come together for solutions because the solution is something she's not going to agree with. We need to address this whole trans situation that's happening in our country. Now, if someone is over the age of 18 years old and they want to go be trans, power to you. That doesn't mean I need to buy into your delusion. That's number one. Number two, we definitely should not be encouraging children under the age of 18 to buy into that delusion as well. Now, we know how far these people will go. We're talking cutting off their body parts. We're talking confusing their identity to the point where there's 1,000 different genders now. I mean, this stuff is nonsense, and it's taking these children away from true development, which is of their character, their intellect, their intelligence. That all has gone on the back burner, and it's all about, what do you identify as? Yeah, so we definitely need to address this issue. We definitely need to make sure that the solution involves us not buying into this level of delusion. And I believe that is the bottom line to all of this. But ultimately, guys, and just to be frank here, the devil's going to do his work. And sometimes it's going to lead to terrible tragedies. And that's why we need to continue to maintain our faith and continue to call out this nonsense at every turn as practically as possible. All right, now we go to our next story. The governor of Illinois is now responding to President Trump potentially sending National Guard troops into Chicago. As you know, yesterday, the mayor of Chicago signed an executive action enforcing his local agencies to prevent their ability to work with federal authorities. But the governor did an interview today, and he once again attacked the president. Here's what he said.
Do this. I hear you talking about invasion. I hear you talking about him suspending elections. Or is it your belief he's an authoritarian?
Look, I can tell you this. I built a Holocaust museum. I know what the history was of a constitutional republic being overturned after an election in 53 days. And I'm very, very concerned. We could talk about lots of authoritarian regimes in the world, but that just happens to be the one that I know. And I can tell you that the playbook is the same. It's thwart the media. It's create mayhem that requires military interdiction. These are things that happen throughout history. And Donald Trump is just following that playbook.
Yeah, so I guess my only question to the governor would be, the mayhem is not coming from the president. The mayhem already exists in Chicago. Just ask the people who live there, who have been subjected to the crime. And you know what the most troubling thing about all this is? The people who are most affected by crime, to my understanding, in these particular cities like Baltimore, Washington, D.C., and Chicago, it's not white people. It's black people. So isn't it interesting that the party who says they care about black people, that Black Lives Matter, you heard me say this plenty of times, are the same people who are refusing the federal government's help to crack down on crime to prevent those lives from being lost? You would think they would really want to do something about this. So I guess for the black people out there that believe systematic racism exists, maybe I might agree with you. Just doesn't exist in the way that I see it. It exists in the way that you're seeing it now. The governor is refusing to crack down on crime in these black neighborhoods that could save black lives, particularly black children. Yeah, you're right. I guess that there is systematic racism.
President Trump is reportedly weighing sending in the National Guard, similar to the deployment in Los Angeles this summer when thousands of troops came in to quell unrest during protests after workplace ICE raids in the city. Reporters are Tom Homan confirming ICE would step up enforcement operations in Chicago as early as next week. Despite officials saying this is not a part of a broad campaign against crime, President Trump took to Truth Social saying 6 people were killed and 24 people were shot in Chicago last weekend. He better straighten it out fast or we're coming. Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker reposting it saying Chicago doesn't want you here.
All right. Well, number one, we know that the politicians do not want the National Guard deployed into the city of Chicago. But how do the people of Chicago feel about the mayor and his job so far? Well, according to a poll from the University of Chicago, only 26% of the residents actually approve of the job that he's been doing, while 58% disapprove, including 16% that had no opinion. Now, clearly the 16% are disconnected. But let's go a little deeper and look at it from this standpoint. Mayor Johnson's approval ratings among black voters show 38% approve, while 42% disapprove. And see, herein lies my problem when it comes to the people of Chicago. And before I say what I'm going to say, I never grew up in Chicago. I've only been to Chicago once. I don't know the plight of Chicago, but I do know about results. The 38% of those people who approve of the job he is doing is delusional. They lack the ability to hold the mayor accountable. And that's the problem with the black community as a whole. We just seem to be allergic to holding each other accountable. That's the bottom line to it. And that's why they keep electing people like Mayor Brandon Johnson, who says one thing on camera, but does another thing in reality. And it's just unfortunate that this is going to continue to happen for that city.
What we won't do, however, is engage in what is a federal effort. That is to say, they have their job, immigration. We have our job, which is to fight violent crime on the streets of our city. And by the way, we're succeeding at that job. But when they bring people in and don't coordinate with us, they're going to cause enormous problems. So this is dangerous. They shouldn't be doing it. It's anti-American. It's un-American. And I would tell her to maybe check herself for what does she really believe.
Okay, so what you just heard there is the governor now attacking Kristi Noem for ramping up ICE operations in Illinois, particularly Chicago, because we know it's a sanctuary city. It's to be expected. He believes it's anti-American to crack down on crime. He believes it's anti-American to get illegal aliens out of the city. And he's just like all the rest of these Democrats who put criminals and illegal aliens above the safety, the security, and the future of American citizens. But here's what Kristi Noem had to say in response.
For 13 consecutive years, Chicago had more murders than any other American city. In fact, just last year in 2024, they had 3 times the amount of murders that LA did. 5 times more than New York City. So he can talk about what a great job he's doing as governor, but he's failing those families who will no longer have their child with them, their mother or their father or their cousin, aunt and uncle that are gone forever because of the violence that's happening in Chicago. So I was a governor for many years. So I recognize the responsibilities that you have on your shoulder when you're a governor. And I'll tell you, as a governor, when I had to make tough decisions and when I had disagreements with the Biden administration or challenges my people were facing, I called up the Biden administration. I went and talked to them. I asked for meetings. I fought for my people. This seems like it's more about Governor Pritzker's ego now rather than actually protecting his people. If he has one murder in the city of Chicago, he should be calling President Trump and saying, what's your ideas? What can we do? They don't even honor our detainers in Chicago. They don't go out there and work with us to make sure we're bringing people to justice. And instead he goes on TV and he attacks me when we're doing exactly what those people need, is they need someone to help them get the dangerous criminals off their streets. And if he has 1, 2, 5, or 10, those victims and their families deserve to walk in freedom on those streets and not have to worry about what's going to happen to them on their way to their job.
Yeah, what makes this so painful for Democrats, it's an issue that they're going to lose on, okay? Because you're talking about people who live in Chicago who lost a son, a daughter, a brother, a sister, a mother, or father to crime. And you're on TV talking about, no, we don't want the federal government's help. We're doing just fine with cracking down on crime. I mean, tell that to the face of people who lost loved ones. You can't do it. And they're not going to do it. And they haven't been doing it. And so this is more of the, I like to call it the desperate Democrats of Congress, but this is truly a reality TV show, people, all political theater. And again, as I say always, the people who get hurt in the process of this nonsense are the American citizens. Now, a credible pushback to what the Trump administration is doing. What about Republican cities? Are you going to go to those cities and do the same thing you're doing to Democrat cities? I think that's a great question, and here's what Kristi Noem had to say in response.
It's in Democratic-controlled states with Democratic mayors, and there have been a lot of questions asked about that focus. There are Republican cities with major crime issues as well, and we haven't heard about plans to deploy, say, to Dallas or to Oklahoma City or to cities in Louisiana, Alabama, and Mississippi that have considerable crime rates, in some cases higher percentage-wise than those other cities you mentioned. Are there plans to go to red states and Republican-controlled cities in this kind of way?
Absolutely. Every single city is evaluated for what we need to do there to make it safer. So we've got operations that, again, I won't talk about details on, but we absolutely are not looking through the viewpoint at anything we're doing with a political lens.
Well, they are looking at things from a political lens, just to be fair here, okay? That's number one. Number two, the reason why I said it's a credible pushback, because it actually proves the point of why Democrat-run cities is an issue. Right? When it comes to Republican cities, there's no issue with working with federal authorities. There's no issue with honoring ICE detainers to get the illegal criminals out of our country. They don't have an issue. So you're not seeing that on the news because there's no stories there. There's always going to be a story with a Democrat mayor because they're going to fight back. It creates drama.
We've already had ongoing operations with ICE in Chicago and throughout Illinois and other states, making sure that we're upholding our laws. But we do intend to add more resources to those operations. I won't disclose the details because they are law enforcement and investigative folks that are on the ground there, and I want to make sure we keep their security our number one priority. But we will continue to go after the worst of the worst across the country, like President Trump has told us to do, focusing on those that are perpetuating murder and rape and trafficking of drugs and humans across our country, knowing that every single citizen deserves to be safe.
All right, so now we're going to move from one interview to the next. And this is an interview from the Oakland mayor on MSDNC. The reason why I want to show it to you because it represents the delusion and hypocrisy that continues around this issue on crime as it pertains to Democrats. So on one hand, they try to use the FBI statistics to make the argument that they don't have a crime problem. But then when the crime statistics from the FBI works against them, they say those numbers don't make any sense and they're wrong. Look no further than the Oakland, and they're wrong. Take a look.
You've recently marked 100 days in office, and while the changes you've made seem to have made impact, according to data from the FBI examining each city's murder and property crime rates, Oakland still ranks among as the second most dangerous place in the country. And police retention in the city has been a big problem for Oakland. The department says they are 300 officers short of what they need on the streets. Trump sending in the National Guard for 30 days doesn't seem like it would bring long-lasting change to this situation. What would actually help since you've already started bringing some things down?
Yes, Robert. Now, those statistics aren't the correct statistics. When you look at the FBI report, Oakland, in the scheme of things, is number 17 or number 18 on its list. And so there's a lot of misinformation and disinformation about Oakland. And what would be helpful, of course, is funding our applications and our requests for more work with regard to our Department of Violence Prevention. We are trying to get to 700 police officers. We have a voter initiative that passed that wanted and directed us to get to 700. We're on that path.
Now, if you're willing to do your research and exercise your critical thinking skills, you would know that she's lying. And you don't have to go very far to see the truth. This is from ABC News out of San Francisco. Oakland Police Department's inaccurate crime reporting leads to questions about what's going on in the city. Now, take a look at this. If I scroll down here, while Oakland's police department clearance numbers, meaning crime solved within all Bay Area police departments, are among the worst, the data the police department submitted to the California DOJ for 2023 is not accurate due to, quote, an anomaly. When pressed, they admitted the anomaly was due to human error. When asked for the correct numbers surrounding crime in Oakland, those stats are not available at this time. Meaning what, ladies and gentlemen? Oakland Police Department has a data problem. They don't seem to even know how many crimes are being committed in the city. The numbers they report publicly are different from what they are reporting to the California Department of Justice. According to the inaccurate stats they reported to the state, violent crimes have more than doubled. Aggravated assaults more than tripled. Motor vehicle thefts have also more than doubled. Oakland Police Department declined ABC7's news interview request. See, this is the same recurring pattern we continue to see in these cities.
And yes, we are strained our budget, of course. Some jurisdictions are providing $75,000 signing bonus, but retention is extremely important. And so the support from the federal government for retention and for recruitment would be welcomed. It also to help us invest more in our Department of Violence Prevention. But the crime rate is coming down even in spite of these challenges. So it's all hands on deck. We're working with our organizations to help recruit from inside of Oakland. We have many young people who are ready to go into the academies. We funded 5 new academies this year in our budget. We funded, we have an issue, we don't sweep our challenges under the rug with sideshows. And so we funded finally, which was not in the budget before, an additional a new investment in sideshow prevention. And so we're moving forward in spite of our challenges. But
yeah, so she's dancing around giving everybody the political answer. And, you know, this is the problem with politics and why President Trump has been successful, whether you like him or not, is because he's willing to tell you what it is. And Democrats, they are very allergic, if that's the proper way to say it, to telling the truth, to just saying exactly what they think. Half the time, I don't even believe they believe what they're saying. I just think they have to say it because the whole party is saying it and they hate President Trump. It's really fascinating to me. Now, let's hear from you guys in the comment section below to these stories today. First, what's your reaction to the Oakland mayor? I showed you what the numbers were. I showed you the reporting from ABC that even calls out how the numbers in Oakland from the police department is not even being reported properly. They don't even know what their numbers are, but she claims the FBI's data is incorrect. What's your reaction to that? Also, Mayor Brandon Johnson, Governor J.B. Pritzker, now they're attacking Kristi Noem. At the end of the day, the question is it anti-American to send National Guard troops into cities to assist local law enforcement agencies in cracking down on crime? Let me know your guys' answers to that. And finally, what do you guys think about Governor Wes Moore? I did that particular segment. I didn't see the clips. I just knew about the clips. I wanted to do it live. But what did you think about his responses? Don't you believe he committed stolen valor? Why won't he just own up to it? I find it to be interesting. Let me know if you see it the same way. Just give me all your thoughts in the comment section below. Now, yesterday, Lisa Cook, the Fed chair governor that was fired by President Trump, she got some bad news because legal analysts are now saying that the allegations against her are not just unfounded. They are serious and she could face some trouble. So if you missed out on that story and more from yesterday, all you have to do is click on that video because it's coming up right now.